submitted a few questions on the RSVP form, so I kind of compiled them, and we'll just get a pretty holistic look at what undergraduate research looks like here at UVA. So we have 5 panelists. If they just wanted to introduce themselves really quickly, starting with Shubes.
Yeah, so I am Shubhrang Shudebsarkar, or Shubes. I am a co-president of ML at UVA. We're kind of the ones hosting this in collaboration with Link Lab. I've done a lot of research so far. I'm a second year actually, but I've done a lot of research in kind of adjacent field, working in like biomedical engineering, with the astronomy field as well. Recently, I've been getting into more technical work involving large language models and post-training specifically. So yeah, feel free to ask me about that afterwards.
Hi, my name is Amar Kulkarni. I am a graduate student working here.
Hello, everyone. I'm an assistant professor in computer science and also electrical and computer engineering departments. I'm Miao Miao, by the way. I see some of the faces who maybe took my course before. So I do research in machine learning AI particularly for healthcare systems. So I'm very happy to be here to talk about how does the undergrad research in my lab look like.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Beeling. So I'm a professor in the School of Data Science. Before I was that, I was actually in the Department of Systems Engineering downstairs and participated in an awful lot of capstones and other kinds of engagement with undergrads and research. So I have a lot of stories to tell about that kind of long background doing that kind of thing, and looking forward to chatting with you about everything that I know about undergrad research, and also about various kinds of topics in AI ML. I'm particularly interested in the life cycle of AI and how things play out. Like how do you make AI kind of resilient over its life cycle, but many other related issues. Oh.
Yes. All right, hello everyone. My name is Yanling Po. I'm the assistant professor in computer science. So I also have some undergrad working with me for independent study or capstone or like a volunteer in the lab. And other than this, I also, well, my research is more about like a robotics or embodied AI. So some of the things we do are in physical robot, but some of it are like in the simulator. I'm happy to chat more about later. And I also teach undergraduate AI. So some of you may take my course or like are interested in learning more about like a general AI topics, and also happy to talk about that.
All right, thank you guys for introducing yourselves. And we just have like a few compiled questions from some of the common questions across all the ones that you guys had asked. And then we'll go into a Q&A after if you guys wanted to ask some more specific questions. The first question that we got a lot of was, what are the best first steps for a student who wants to get involved in AI ML research, especially when they have little to no prior experience, like their first years and whatnot? To start.
I'll give that one a try, just by saying, that the first step is just to begin to approach some of the faculty members. And I think you'll find them, particularly the instructors of your courses, a little bit easier to talk to than you might fear. And that there's a lot of cases where I think faculty have plenty of opportunities for engaging undergrads in their labs, but are not necessarily running a wide kind of recruiting campaign. So I'll just say that there have been a lot of students who have ended up working with me over the years who have just sort of knocked on the door and come in. And one of those students is actually currently an associate professor in the School of Data Science, and came to me knocking on my door when he was a first-year student in systems engineering. And we worked together during the year, during I think the first summer between his first and second year. And then after that, each year, although he ended up going off and doing internships elsewhere. And then he became my PhD student, and followed me in kind of as a research professor and has made a whole career out of it. So these kind of determined knocks on a professor's door can yield unexpected benefits.
Yeah, I think definitely talking to people, expanding your network, talking to professors. I completely agree with this. It's a really good thing to do. In terms of more like pragmatic advice for like skill building, because I think it's one thing to just be able to network and to be able to get the connections to talk to professors. It's another thing to just like know the content really well. For me, I kind of had a little bit of context into AI and ML through high school, but I've been talking to a lot of students that are building this over time. One thing I'd recommend, of course, not to like shamelessly self-promote, ML at UVA, we do a lot of lectures and reading groups. So if you kind of go through those, we post them all to YouTube and we have lectures every Wednesday. If you want to pull up to those or watch them, I think they're a pretty good resource to just get up to speed on ML fundamentals. Another thing is if you guys have time over the summer, I know that's rapidly approaching, there is a program called Arena, ARENA, and it is a technical kind of fellowship that you can do completely online. It goes through like coding basics, theory fundamentals of like transformers, machine learning, pretty much all of deep learning. So that's a resource I would highly recommend as well.
I want to add extra points. I think those are all great suggestions. But my suggestion is that before you actually take your first step, you have to seriously ask a question. Are you ready? Are you really committed to research? So oftentimes I do have undergrads, including first year, basically knocking on my door and telling me, Professor, I'm really interested in research. Can I get hands-on, research experience or project in your group? So the first question I actually ask is not, do you have background X, Y, and Z? The first question I want to ask is that, why do you want to do AI or machine learning? That's related to my research, particularly in healthcare. So if you are really thinking about, having effective communication or getting higher chance for the faculty to actually take you in the research group, do a little bit homework. At least know, what is the research that you are particularly interested in and what your curiosity is. So those are very two key information that you should prepare before you start to look for all the possibilities.
So I think I actually want to add on top of this because this motivation, like why you are interested in doing AI ML rather than it sounds cool. But I think it's oftentimes a student, some of student we accepted, they shows up like it's very seems motivated at the beginning, but as the semester goes, right? Like your motivation kind of go away as your midterm score come out. So then it becomes it's harder to learn things, and it's also harder to show like you care about this. So I think this is usually like the first question you need to thinking about. Are you trying to do this? It's because you want to add a line on your resume, or you actually want to doing ML through like a practical like trials, like a hands-on experience. So you want to do it better, so you can learn it, and you also advance the research. So I think this is something probably you should also ask you about why you want to do AI ML research today. And I think the other things is I guess some of undergrads I also talk to some of them. They say, oh, I email a lot of people, other professor, they don't reply to me. I don't know what to do. And but I think there are a few things like what first we're talking about, maybe you talk to the professor you take a course with, well, more familiar with you. And probably also like what Myung was saying, like if you actually show you care, you're interested in like doing things in medical or doing things in social science, like apply AI ML, you take a look what this lab is doing and what type of papers. Even though you don't understand everything, because nobody understands everything in the first year, but you can see a few of the keywords, so you can also ask ChatGPT or something online to help you understand what's the general topics or what you expect to. So it is less like when you send an email, more like, I'm interested in AI ML research and I'm very motivated in your lab. Can I find a time next week to talk to you? And if you are doing that, I guarantee 90% or 100% of the time you get no response, because there's no targets that people don't know why you are interested in this, right? And also like whether if you show you care, you may need to do a little bit homework before you reach out to any particular professors, or even like the student in the lab. Professor, sometimes they are busy, but student, they are more successful, you can reach out to.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with what everyone said. You should have a little motivation, but to show that, you have to kind of like go and to like show like a professor or their students that you care and want to actually participate. You should go read that lab's papers. And it probably is very difficult, and papers are very dense and difficult to read. But you just have to try and at least show that you did try. And that's like far more likely to get a response. And what me and my advisor, we've had the same exact discussion that you prompted. And we usually say like, yeah, we're always trying to do research, but there's like a finite amount of time. And so I would love to just think about some like grand idea that someone has, and we want to go dive into it. But the reality is we don't have time to go dive into every different one of your problems that you might find interesting. So the way that you can get a hold of that professor's time is to show, like, I can participate in the project that you're already working on. And I think that actually helps a lot more to get inside. Like Professor Zhang said, she wants to know you're motivated in medical AI research, then you should go read some of her papers or her students' papers. And that will probably make them more like endeared to you, especially when you have like kind of this cold email.
Great, thank you guys. And kind of talking in regard to that like timing aspect, another question a lot of people had were, when are these undergraduate research opportunities typically open? And like, when is a good time to reach out? Is it like after the semester you take with that professor, or in like maybe in terms of first, second, third year? They were kind of wondering about that.
My opinion is that as soon as they know your name, if you've taken their class, go ahead and shoot your shot. But the actual professors might know better.
I agree with that as an actual professor. Yeah, take your opportunity when you can find it, and when when you've gotten a connection going. I was sitting here trying to think as the question was being posed. Is there an answer that I have in my head in terms of timing, a regular time that I'm looking for students? And the answer is probably not. There are projects that I engage in with undergraduates on a regular basis, like capstone projects and things like that. But for hiring people in my lab or engaging with students that want to do something on the side or something, that could happen at any time. So, don't be driven by that question, I think, is my answer.
Would you say that a lot of the opportunities you give to undergraduates come through personal connections, like that you were their professor, or is there any like particular like website or resource that students can look out for specifically for these opportunities?
There are a couple of resources, particularly for undergrad research. So at the CIS level, so there is a program called ASOR. So that is particularly for first year student. So basically, we are assuming that you don't have any background for research, but if you are interested. So at the department level, I believe that the CS department has the website that each faculty, for example, if I want to hire undergrad, I will put my project there. Although you have to really reach out to faculty, because it could be possible that the project is outdated, but we just didn't have time to update it. So similarly for the ECE department, that there is, undergrad research resources through the Capstone project, and CS has Capstone as well. So all these different resources, I'm sure if you just keep an eye on it, it's not difficult to find it.
Yeah, I think Nemo was saying, like, if you see as there's a spreadsheet or something they listed, so you can probably look for that. But I think I also know a lot of professors, they actually didn't put anything on that. So I think it's probably sometimes it's good to just reach out to individual professors. If you really want to do NLP, reach out to NLP professors, or you really want to do things in robots, and you can find out who are the areas of research on the CS faculty website, so you can just directly reach out to them.
Yeah, I think emphasizing this last point, I really agree with this. Don't feel hesitant or afraid to reach out to a professor if you don't really know them or you haven't been in a class with them. To kind of give a very personal anecdote, I don't know if many of the professors here will agree with my methods. But so I was really interested in Professor Yu Meng's research on LLMs and post-training. I read a lot of his papers. I thought there's a lot of interesting ideas there. So I emailed him with a proposal. I said, I really like this paper. I was thinking about doing this. And he ghosted me. There was no response. So then I basically found his office hours and went to his office hours when there's no one else there. And I knock on the door. He opens it. He kind of sizes me up, looks me up and down. I tell him, I have this proposal for you. I really want to do NLP research. And he says, well, I traditionally want students to take my either undergraduate or graduate NLP class before they do research with me. And I had not taken this class yet. But I said, I have this proposal, at least hear me out. So he begrudgingly says, okay, you can send me the proposal. I'll take a look at it. So I immediately go send him the proposal, again, with a follow-up email. I guess he sends that to one of his graduate students, and one of his graduate students who wrote the paper that I was initially putting my work on top of, he really liked that proposal. And he thought there was potential for some collaboration. And now I'm doing work in Professor Meng's lab this semester. So I think definitely don't be afraid to reach out to professors, kind of be somewhat persistent. Obviously don't be really annoying to them, but yeah, things can work out well.
Yeah, but I think I want to actually add on top of it, because if you have anything that is very specific and you concrete, wrote a proposal, because I also got proposal from student before, and I read it, you want to understand the internal geometry of LLM, even though I'm not working on LLM, but then very interesting, I want to learn this thing. So I actually ended up saying, okay, I can advise you as an independent study. And because this is the thing, you are very motivated. You are spending a lot of time reading and sharing that with me, how the things work. And I think the end result is actually also pretty good. You write it up as a blog post in the conference and it got accepted. So I think this is also one of the example, if you have something you are really interested in, you should trying to make it more concrete and trying to convince people that this is some research worth exploring. Yeah. So that's even though it doesn't work 100% of time, but sometimes it will work if you are motivated enough and trying to putting things together.
Yeah. I just want to, if I can ask a question of the audience. Yeah. So I want to, everyone here is interested in undergraduate research. How many folks are interested in undergraduate research because you want to have that experience as a foundation for applying for graduate school? Is that a lot of people, or just raise your hands? Don't be shy. Okay. And how many are thinking more about, future employment, you'd like to have this experience as a foundation for getting a job? So quite a few too. So we have kind of two different potential pathways. And it's worth thinking about, when you're talking about something like an independent study versus connecting with a core research that's going on in a lab. So if you're approaching a professor because you want to get as close to the cutting edge of research as you can, in order to be part of say a paper that's going to help you get into a top-notch graduate school, that's a little bit different than coming and saying, I have this area, I'm just really passionate about it, and what do you think? Can I do an independent study with you? because when you're in that latter kind of bucket, then you have the opportunity to engage a professor who just may be interested and is not having to put you on the critical path of a research project or kind of engage the finite time for engagement with graduate students and things like that. So it's a little bit different. And I think both can work well. When you're thinking about the future employment, everybody's probably, I don't know, how many people, I'll ask another question. I'll just keep going until, with hands. Just one more. How many people saw Jensen Huang's comments this week regarding resumes of undergraduates and other people? Anybody? I think it was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. And Huang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA, said it does not matter what your GPA is, what courses you took, where you went to school. The only thing that really matters to him is what can you do in AI. And so that's really what you're thinking about when you're thinking about maybe going to a company, is demonstrating some that through perhaps project experience, which could be research or which could be oriented in a different kind of way, like you're making a product or something that wouldn't be, a mainline research topic at a conference. That's what you're aiming for, is to be able to talk in depth about what you know about AI and what you have accomplished in it.
Thank you. And yeah, kind of going back to that first thing, I think that Mama had mentioned about deciding if you really do want to do research. What do undergraduate students typically do in an AI ML research lab? And like, how involved are the students, I guess, from the student and the professor perspective?
Well, I work with a variety of different students on a lot of different projects. In our research lab, there's one student who works with me on my own little dissertation project. And so that type of work is very different, because we try to lead the student with questions and try to gauge their own critical independent thinking skills, and see if they can express their ideas in writing, and make small changes to a larger project. And then on the other hand, we have students who work in the Cavalier autonomous racing. And this one is kind of different, because I have much stricter expectations of what I want to see them do. And so it's not quite research. It's more so just we're doing a very rigorous engineering project. So it really depends on kind of the context of the student we're working with. But usually, I don't know if this is the case all the time, but we have a weekly meeting, and maybe 30 to 40 minutes, we discuss what the student did that week, and we make suggestions about what they could try next. And really, we just try to gauge your idea of what you should do next, because that's the kind of foundation we're trying to build for you.
Particularly in my research group, that I do have undergrads who work on, AI, developing AI models for medical image analysis. So I don't know about other, areas, but for medical, that the students oftentimes ask me, hey, professor, do I have to know, something about, medical background? I said, okay, well, you don't need to know about a particular disease, but you have to get familiar with the medical data. So for example, if you want to work with human brain data or human hearts, at least you should be able to recognize that's the brain and that's the heart. And what's the differences between, the healthy subject, how does the heart moves, and versus, the patient who has heart failure, how does the heart works? So they oftentimes starts with very basic understanding of classifying. So if I gave you this patient, okay, can you develop AI models? I mean, I'm not actually asking them to develop. It's oftentimes what my students develop, but they take it and do basically testing. And then if I give you a new patient images, can you actually classify whether this is healthy or whether there is a particular disease? Or that even if the AI tells you there's a disease, then can you actually make AI to explain to you a little bit? I mean, there are special techniques. You can use large language models and then try to explain what's going on in the image and why the AI actually think this is a disease. So, I mean, there are all these impactful researches that the students can do. You do disease diagnosis, detection from image data, and then you could also, do explainability, and you can also do, because we do have data set from multiple clinical centers. So a very big problem is that for AI ML, it oftentimes works on the training data, but if you shift the data distribution a little bit, whoops, it doesn't work anymore. So the undergrad could come over to my lab and then taking the model to train on a particular data set from particular clinical centers, and then try to test whether the model will be robust or generalizable to different clinical centers. So I think those are all the very important, impactful research that you all can do.
Yeah, so I think for undergrad in my research lab, we do have an undergrad to help like a building system, because we're working on robots. So some of them are like a building the teleoperation system for like a robot arm, or like the driving simulator. And we also have things in like building this household robot simulations in the real household. So like a student participated in to like learn how to generate things. It's actually more like the game design than the robot research. Yeah, but I think this is a more like a core engineering part. But there are also some students they were participating in certain projects. You will need to like doing a little bit like user study. So for example, if you want to teach you how like a robot can work with people, we first ask people to like, you need to play this game and figure it out how you two collaborate together and do some analysis, and like turn it into like some machine learning or AI models. So we also have like some part of undergrads are, if you have more experience with like a AI machine learning, you may like become more on like the model building parts in terms of running things from some paper, but adapt to the scenario or like come up with new like methods or ideas. So I think we do have like a research go from like more engineering to more like a research and modeling spectrum. But I think it's like Amar say, like usually what we do, either my student and I, we have like a weekly like meetings, yeah, with the undergraduate. So you will need to talk about like what you have been working on like this week, and it is also not I complete this part of code. Is usually we to talk a little bit more about like okay, I implement this part of code and this is what I see, this is my analysis, this is my understanding. So we can then provide suggestions. So usually it is not the time we are sitting together to like debug, because they will sometimes if you do that, you can find a time with like a group of team or like with the PhD student to do pair programming. But usually for this weekly meeting, we make it like more like for feedback, so you can know what you can do for the next steps.
And also that I forgot to mention, oftentimes I would divide my project into two different categories, depending on what your target is. If you want to, do more, like innovative project, and then that help you with the graduate applications, which is great. So I oftentimes offer the projects that has more like open research questions. So there's no certain answer that you directly find from internet. But then I always pair a undergrad with my PhD students working together. So creates a publication as co-authorship. Or, if you can, like be really committed, commit your time and effort, you can have your first author publication that coming out from undergrad research as well. So if you are interested in industry job, I oftentimes to give like more project-based, which means that after you finish this project, you can create your online GitHub link that is showing, oh, I can do disease detection. I can also generate images that has really high quality to help the healthcare system, and you can basically make your code online, project online. So that gives you the credentials to the industry job. So pretty much that's the two things.
Thank you guys for sharing what an actual lab might look like. I think the other side of things was you guys had mentioned like having actual interest in the topic, and something that a lot of people are asking were, what are the major areas of AI ML research today, and how should students go about exploring and like deciding on one to kind of pursue and start to reach out to professors in that area?
I'll go for it. I personally think the whole explosion of robotics and AI interest is amazing right now. So some days I will be like, wow, this like image generation with diffusion models looks so cool. Let me read like 5 papers on this and completely distract myself from my dissertation. And then I'm like, well, you know, I gotta get back to work. So let's come back to the main project I work on, a lot of reinforcement learning. And then I realized, like, oh, my interest is fading again. Let's go learn about these transformers and LLMs. And so the truth is, like if you kind of live and die by like what you feel is novel or like interesting at the moment, you're kind of constantly jumping around all over the place. I think it's important to find like kind of a broader scope problem to work on. So like for me, it's like I kind of enjoy working on automobiles because I like robots in general. And then the particular problem I'm working in, I pick it as like, I'm going to use reinforcement learning as a tool to solve my larger problem. Meanwhile, I don't know exactly what Dr. Zhang is working on, but maybe she said that medicine is her main like motivation. And there might be many different methodologies underneath this umbrella of medicine, AI in medicine. So it's very important to not like say get too married to like this type of technology because the truth is it's changing constantly. And what you are particularly like super passionate about might change constantly as well. So you have to kind of embrace a little pain and discipline and say, I'm just going to pick this and I'm going to devote some 10, 15 hours a week to work on it. And I'm just going to learn it. And whether like my fancy changes or not, that just happens. That's life. And so you have to remember like I got to stick with this sometimes, even if I can feel my interest fluctuating a little bit.
Uh, well, sure, I'll go for this. So I guess now there are so many topics, it's kind of hard to pick one. And I think I kind of agree with Amar say like you probably should thinking about the way like what's the things you want to either you want to learn more and or you want to contribute more. And then you just spend time on that for like a semester or a couple of hours, a couple like 10 or 15 hours a week to try to get to know this field or this idea because I think this probably won't be your first project because some of you are here like a first or second year, and maybe you will have like some of like people you may do like multiple research project, right? So it's probably good to like start from somewhere and you learn it pretty well. And then later, once you get more experience, you will also know you like these things more, hate these things a lot more. Then this is a time, okay, next semester or next year, then what are the other things you can switch into? So I think it's better to not get distracted. I touch this a little bit, touch that a little bit, then it won't be like able to help you complete anything. So I think that would be, yeah, probably my suggestion. No matter which one you pick, I think it wouldn't be too bad because you are gonna to learn something, but later you know you like it, you don't like it, then you can switch next year.
So I think I gave a preview of kind of the way I think about this, that, you know, if you're wanting to head to grad school, then as you kind of engage with the labs, you can count on the labs as being pursuing in one way or another what is sort of the cutting edge in AI research, right? That's their job to do that. And so they'll lead you in those directions. If you're thinking about, you know, gee, I might want to work in industry, then do think about what the CEO of NVIDIA said. And imagine you're, you know, what you're doing is you're sitting in an interview when you're, you know, in your fourth year, and you want to be able to talk about not just what you know about AI, not what technical skills you have, but maybe to be able to speak to a project that you've done and be able to speak deeply about the use of AI and AI tools. So one of the things that's, you know, sort of happening, I think, with AI, and, you know, we don't like to say this as researchers in the field, is that the number of people that are needed to kind of be researchers in AI is much, much smaller than the number of people that are needed to be out doing stuff with all the AI tools and capabilities. So, you know, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, if you're oriented towards moving immediately into a job versus graduate school, then maybe you ought to be thinking, and I really would like to hear from our ML Club folks some descriptions of the kinds of projects that are happening through the club, because from what I understand, there are companies that are coming and saying, we have problems, help us. If you solve one of those problems, imagine how much that gives you to talk about in an interview. That's so much more interesting than talking about what everybody will talk about. I took these courses, I know how to do this coding. I studied, these methods, and I know a little bit about how the models work. If you can show that you're actually engaged at the level of being able to orchestrate outcomes using the various kinds of AI tools that are out there and methods, maybe you have to create something new too, and that you've overcome significant technical challenges, then that's something that you can really speak to.
Yeah, I really appreciate Professor Bailey giving ML at UVA this kind of alley-oop, I guess. So I can talk a little bit about the client projects that we do. I can say personally in my interviewing experience for various companies, talking about that working in a team on these client projects has been super helpful. It is like it is kind of a story that I can go back to a lot of the time during these behavioral interviews. So just to give you guys an example of some client projects we do, we have a few more like research heavy projects with the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab. These are kind of a few projects like mapping the brain using graph neural networks, modeling large language model dynamics in like adversarial game theory situations. If you guys know like the board game Diplomacy. We also have more like industry focused projects. We have some with LMI, which is a data science company, a local data science company. We've done some on like mapping data centers. We have evaluated RAG, retrieval augmented generation pipelines on different data sets. We've done a project with Adobe. We built for a long time ago, we built like a chatbot for their certifications page. And we are actually recently starting a project with Whiting Turner, the construction consulting company. And we're doing a lot of like database and MCP integration so that they're like construction companies have to get permits. And we want to kind of speed up that permit acquisition process with data and large language models. So yeah, definitely if you want to get this industry experience, I would highly, highly recommend the client projects. We'll probably be starting another like application round for those next semester, most likely, unless something really major crops up over the next couple months. Yeah, so in terms of fields in AI, one thing that I would highly recommend from my biased perspective is something that we haven't mentioned yet is like AI safety or like alignment research. I think because of the fact that the safety field itself is so young and the people working on these problems are like in their like mid-20s, being an undergraduate gives you like less of a comparative disadvantage here because a lot of the people working in traditional deep learning fields, they've gotten their PhD, right? They've done 10, 15 years in academia. They have a lot of like a very strong knowledge base on these problems. And AI safety is a new field, and I think it's a fairly important field as we continue to use AI more and more in our systems and increasingly important systems. So as an undergraduate, you can get up to speed to like the frontier of the safety field within like probably 6 months of just like reading papers, understanding what the research is doing, and kind of re-implementing things. That's something I'd recommend if you are interested in kind of pursuing research independently.
Thank you guys. And yeah, I just wanted to open it up to the audience if you guys had any questions for any of our panelists. If there are no group questions, then we can kind of go into the part where we have pizza and whatnot, and then you guys can come up and talk to the panelists specifically. But just to give another round of applause to our panelists, we really appreciate you guys being here. And we hope that you guys learned a lot about just how to get into the space of undergraduate research. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And there's pizza over here in the back corner. Please grab a slice. Thank you guys so much for coming. And we may have a lot of extra, so feel free to grab 2 slices if you would like. But yes, please grab some pizza on your way out. Thank you very much.